What is the Great Reset? Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahashai, Bahashem Rachakwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And this is a question that was asked from an alternative news media website called blacklistednews.com. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to read some of this because a lot of people have the wrong idea of what this Great Reset actually is. So I'm going to explain it to you thoroughly, what the Great Reset is. I first heard the phrase Great Reset way back in 2014, right? Christine Lagarde, who was head of the IMF at the time, was suddenly becoming very vocal about global centralization. It was an agenda that was generally only whispered about in dark corners of institutional white papers and the secretive meetings of so-called banking elites. But now these people are becoming rather loud about it. Lagarde was doing a question and answer at a World Economic Forum, and the notion of the reset was very deliberately brought up. What the project entailed was vague, but the basic root of it was a dramatic shift away from the current economic, social, and political models of the world into a globally centralized and integrated system, a new world order, if you will. And you're right about that. The so-called white man's Great Reset is really their new world order. But it goes deeper. It goes even further beyond centralization. It goes far beyond globalization. It goes beyond wiping out the global population and leaving behind a small number to, put an MOTB into the people and control them. It goes way farther than that. It's far deeper than that. It says it is important to remember that we had just jumped through the fires of international credit collapse, which started in 2008 and had continued to cause uncertainty in markets for years. The central banks had dumped tens of trillions of dollars worth of stimulus into the system just to keep it on life support. Some of us in the alternative media believe that these actions were not meant to save the economy, only zombify the economy through currency devaluation and inflation. Not long down the road, this zombie creation would run on us and try to eat us alive. Only the central bankers knew exactly when this would occur. Okay, so here it says total global economic centralization. Some people might claim that we already have global economic centralization, but they don't understand what this really means. While national central banks are all members of the IMF and the Bank for International Settlements and take their marching orders from these institutions, what the globalists want is open global governance of financial, probably through the IMF. In other words, It's not enough that they manipulate economies secretly by using national central banks as proxies. What they want is to stop hiding and to come out into the light as the mag as the magnanimous rulers they think they are. The ultimate goal of full centralization is to erase the very idea of free markets and to allow a handful of people to micromanage every aspect of trade and business. It's not just about influence, it's about economic empire. But in order to achieve global central bank, they must first implement a one world currency plan. And that's ultimately what the global economic centralization is. It's all about the implementation of a one world currency plan. Okay, which in any case they could easily control, the amount of money and spending each country can do through one major banking system. Okay, and now here's the other one, right? A one world digital currency system. It says the IMF has been talking about using their special drawing rights basket as the foundation for a global currency for years since at least year 2000, around a decade ago. China started taking on trillions of dollars in debt just to qualify as a member of the SDR system. And the IMF has hinted that when all is said and done, that system will go digital. That is needed to the right kind of crisis to shock the public into compliance. And ultimately, that's that. Well, wait a minute. Haven't they already started that in Ukraine? This crisis that's going on into Ukraine is causing Ukraine to march into a digitized society. And now they're talking about how Poland could be the main target. This was evident at the height of the at the Crown Royal pandemic lockdowns and the threat of economic disaster when globalist institutions began to suggest that the IMF's SDR could be used as a safety net for nations with strings attached, of course. But beyond the stresses of the pandemic, there is a much bigger crisis, namely the stagflationary crisis now on our doorstep, with multiple national currencies in decline and the dollar's world reserve status increasingly in question. I have no doubt that the globalists will take opportunity to offer the public their digital currency as a solution. We already seen them moving forward with that, with them coming out with all these different digital coins. You know, I mean, of course, Bitcoin became that top common coin for people to mine for, right? But a lot of people don't notice, but there were other digital currencies out there even before Bitcoin. Bitcoin is simply one of those digital currencies that ended up blowing up so high that it became a digital currency for high demand. And now look, now you got Doggy Coin, and there's other digital currencies out there, but Bitcoin is just one of them. But even then, they're going to have a one major digital currency that everybody will have to live under. So it's not going to just be multiple digital currencies. It's going to be one major digital currency that they'll want everybody to live under. Okay. A global social credit system. Don't think I need to read that. You will own nothing and be happy by 2030. You know, their inward thought is that their kingdoms shall continue forever. Okay? And it's funny because they say that you will own nothing and be happy, but wait a minute. We already don't own anything. Okay? Like a lot of you so called business owners, do you really think you own your business? Okay, what happens if you don't pay the IRS? What happens to your business? Your business gets taken down and it gets replaced with another business owner. So, not even business owners own their own business. They gave you this illusion that you have some kind of ownership over what you have. Like a person might buy a car. Yeah, this is my car. No, that's not your car. That car is owned by one of the banking elites. And guess what? If you don't pay off that car, what happens? They come and have your car towed. Why is that? Because you don't own that car. People will have a house that's fully paid off and blase blase. You think you own that house? You don't own that house. The so-called elites own that house. What happens if you don't pay your water bill? Well, ain't no water coming to your place. If you don't pay your electric bill, well, you're going to be sitting in a dark house at night. You don't pay your heat bill, you're going to be dressed in coats and living, sitting underneath blankets while watching TV because it's too cold in your place. Then you're going to have to deal with frozen pipes, which is not good. So people own nothing already. So we're already in that time. Okay, so this whole great reset, it's more than what it's more than just the NWO. It's more than central globalization. It's more than bringing a world under a one world currency. It's much more than that. It's more than just a digital currency, which will ultimately be on the CHIP, which is the market. You know what? Okay, this global great reset really goes back to this. And I'm just not 29, I'm just gonna start somewhere else. The great reset really goes back to this. It goes back to when the so called elite's forefather, Esau, lost his birthright and his blessing to our forefather Jacob. Now, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 28. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sawed, and Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. Right. Because red is synonymous with what? Blood. Did not blood show forth through Edom's skin? Why do you think when Esau came out of the womb of Rebekah, he was red all over because of the blood that showed forth through his skin? Okay, so that red pottage was really bloody meat. Therefore, his name was called Edom. And Jacob said, "Sell me this day thy birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob over some bloody meat, which, like brothers have been going into. The laws have always been around. They were just moral at the time. So Esau knew that he was not supposed to eat meat with the blood in it, but he did it anyway because he was hungry. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So this man gave away his birthright over some bloody meat. Now let's go to Genesis the 27th chapter, so you can further understand what this great reset is really about. Okay, and I'm just going to skip way down there. So this is Genesis chapter 27, verse 30. And it came to pass as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he made savory meat and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, "Let my father arise, eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me." And Isaac his father said unto him, "Who art thou?" And he said, "I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau." And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, "Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yea, he shall be blessed." Okay, so this is going into how our forefather Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, came in with subtlety and received Esau's blessing. So Esau lost his blessing to his brother Jacob, in which Jacob was a brown-skinned man with woolly hair, just like his parents. Esau was the first person to be born on the planet with no pigmentation in his skin. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said, now you got to imagine how Esau was feeling. It said that he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry. So you got to think about this, man. This man was crying his eyes out. He was crying. He was crying. He was, he was probably yelling while he was probably yelling and screaming while crying. And Isaac, he was probably just sitting there, just listening, you know. And this also explains why so-called white people hate us today, because we are the descendants of Jacob, who is responsible for supplanting Esau of his birthright and of his blessing. And said unto his father, "Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, your brother Jacob came with subtlety and have taken away thy blessing. And Esau said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him your Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I, man, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? Man, the Lord is terrible, man. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing? And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay? And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. So that hatred is still in the descendants of Esau today. And the descendants of Esau are who? That's talking about so-called white people, starting with the so-called elites, trickling down to the rest of their nation of people. Those are your descendants of Esau. The descendants of Jacob are the Israelites, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians. Okay, so this great reset, when you put it into a nutshell, it's really about the so-called elites trying to get their birthright and their blessing back. They're trying to get their birthright and their blessing back by artificial means. Okay? By artificial means. You know, he's trying to set up a artificial blessing and birthright here on the planet. That's why you see all these robots and, you know, all this high technology. Because artificially, he's trying to get his birthright and his blessing back. And that's what the Great Reset is really all about. New World Order is about the so-called elites having complete control, not only over the planet, but over all the people and over all the resources and over all the gold and silver that you could think of. Because in the kingdom of heaven, the Israelites are going to have control over all the people. The Israelites are going to have control over the whole planet. The Israelites are going to have control over all the resources. So the so-called elites, they're trying to set up their own kingdom of heaven here on the earth through this great reset, which is that new world order, which is all about them trying to get their birthright and their blessing back, which is never going to happen. Because the moment they try to fulfill the New World Order, guess what? This is going to happen to them. Job chapter 20, verse 4. I'm going to just... This is going to happen right here. They're not, the so-called elites, they're not going to succeed with this great reset. I hate to break it to you, Eve, but the birthright and the blessings belong to us even before heaven and earth was created. The Heavenly Father simply wanted the birthright and the blessings to be given to us the way it did because this is the Lord's movie. I did not write the scripts. I did not write the scripts of the Holy Scriptures. Okay, hey, if you got a problem with the Lord's movie, take it up with the Heavenly Father. I'm pretty sure he'll be glad to smack shit out of you. Job chapter 20, verse 23, when he, the so-called elites, is about to fill his belly, well, when he's about to fulfill that great reset, that new world order, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So that's when the nuclear destruction is going to take place. You know, the nuclear destruction, which is going to be responsible for taking you devils out of power. Okay, this whole land is going to be obliterated by 200 million missiles. And not just this country, but those gutter rats over there in the land of Israel. Okay, that land is going to be wiped out too, because that land is polluted with filth. With that, I'm going to say shalom, is on to the next one.